Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Jacob Kettner, founder and CEO of First Rank, a successful search engine marketing agency from Canada. Jacob, welcome to the show. Excited to have you.
Thanks for having me on, Dawood. I've been looking forward to this.
Same here, man. Same here. After your talk in Chiang Mai about how to scale an agency, I thought this was definitely an episode we had to have before we close for the New Year's because a lot of our viewers are agency owners or entrepreneurs planning to start their own agency or people like struggling with scale. So this is
Yeah.
definitely an important episode to have. But Jacob, before like we dive deep into your journey and like the things you did to successfully scale, it would be great if you could introduce yourself and the company for our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jacob Kettner. The company is First Rank. We're probably one of the largest SEO agencies in Canada. We serve primarily the Canadian market. Yeah. Been 9 years old. We've got about 20 people full time right now.
Right. You started First Rank right after college. Was it all planned?
No, it,
How
it wasn't.
how, how did it happen?
Yeah, I actually like back in grade 10, I decided that I wanted to learn how to make money online. And so I Googled make money online, and the first result was Warrior Forum. So I spent many years drop shipping on eBay and doing a lot of these little like black hat tactics for making a few bucks here and there. But I was just doing well enough that I just wanted to keep chasing it. So when I graduated, I was like, "Okay, I'm going to start a real business now." And I had some experience in drop shipping, and I started a drop shipping business selling like backyard patio furniture. And I was doing just Google ads. I think so. I was in grade 10 in 2006. So I spent basically 2006 through 2013 avoiding SEO because I didn't believe that it just seemed like a scam to me. So I was always looking for paid ads and stuff. And so I ran the whole store on paid ads, and I was basically break even because the ads were expensive. So I started learning about SEO again and decided that it could actually work. And I didn't have the resources to rank that site. It was a little bit too competitive for what I had available to me, but I realized that I could help local businesses really easily. So if I just share like how I got my first client, I wanted to think about the least competitive market that I could possibly think of. And I'd heard it was actually on an OMG webinar, and I was never part of that group, but it was a webinar, and I think Mike Long mentioned that, and he was bragging about ranking for eyelash extensions, and
Yeah.
I was like, what a joke! You're bragging about your number one rankings for this keyword that you're basically competing against a bunch of stay-at-home moms that like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and I was like, what a great idea! I'm gonna rank eyelash extensions because it's going to be super easy. So I cold outreach to a few stay-at-home moms that did eyelash extensions and offered to work for free, and one of them took me up on it and ranked number one for that, and that was my first clients.
You're talking about cold outreach. Like right now, I know like one of the biggest agencies in Canada, you already have that market and like referrals, your normal inbound must be working fine. But is there still a go-to strategy or a go-to cold strategy for you to get clients apart from whatever is coming inbound?
You know what? We've had very poor success with cold outreach. We've tried it a lot over the years: email, calling, appointment setters. We've tried pretty much every service out there that hits my inbox, and it really, like, at the beginning, I think the reason that I was effective with it was because of the risk reversals that I was willing to put in place. And so this first client, like, my pitch was, "Hey, I just graduated from university. I'm trying to get some experience. I'll work for you for free until you rank." So she took that. And then later on, it wasn't necessarily free, but it was, "If you're not in the top three positions in 6 months, I'll work for free until you
Right.
are." So I think as we've stepped back from those risk reversals and started using our client successes as our sales pitches, the cold outreach has been a little bit harder because we don't have quite the same kind of hook that we had before.
Right. But I think that's part of like phases of an agency maturing. Now, obviously, the quality of clients also have increased, and Now you don't need that hook at all. Thank you for sharing that. I want to congratulate you for creating a successful agency and scaling an agency right from scratch. You have done it yourself. You have been a true leader, like grown the company and a successful one. But as per you, what are the top three strategic initiatives or decisions that you believe were instrumental in the successful scale of First Rank?
Yeah. So I think one of them is tracking everything. And this was something that again, I was raised in the glory days of PBNs. And I always thought, wow, like this is, I don't have a great, I had a spreadsheet for tracking where all of our links were going from our PBNs. By the way, we don't use PBNs at all anymore. But I realized a spreadsheet's not enough. I need a database
Right.
where I can quickly reference like, hey, are we building a footprint here? Do we have too many links from the same sites to the same clients? And so that was like my initial inspiration for working with databases. And then as we built it, I realized, hey, we can do so much more with this. So like every link we've built for the last 6-7 years, we track the page that it went to, the page that it came from, but also the ranking page that we're targeting. So if this was like, if we were building a link to a supporting piece of content, we'd have where we built it to, but also the end goal of what we were trying to rank with it. And just so we expanded from there and used the same database for our content process and our on-page changes. And it turned out to be a good system for tracking hours and how we deliver things. And it didn't happen overnight, but it was a pivotal change for us having all of that data, because after a number of years of using it basically just as a project management system and doing nothing with the data, we decided that we wanted to be a little bit more strategic about pricing and use cost centers and figure out what our costs were on everything. And having that data was what made that possible. And also just to be able to provide a higher level of transparency to clients. And if they say, hey, what have you done for the last 3 months? Us to be able to like basically break it down by the 15-minute interval as to what's actually into a campaign. And I think a lot of agencies try to avoid that because they're not actually putting in that much work. And we could have the argument on value-based pricing, but I like to be able to back what we're doing. I think you asked for three. That's one, really. The second would be having the insurance pool mindset. So in our pricing model, we price for about 80% utilization of staff. So we always have about 20% extra that we can put into our own internal projects or research and development or our clients. So it's really nice having that pool and clients knowing that, yes, they're going to get their minimum deliverables every single month. But if there's an update and their site gets hit or their site gets hacked, or we just have the extra resources to put in at no extra charge for them and give them that concierge experience. And I think that's really just helped with client retention, not going back. And you have to be careful not to blend that, like that doesn't turn into scope creep and them asking for too much. But having the ability to allocate extra resources to clients without losing money was important. Third, learning about and implementing EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, Traction. It's basically, I'm your typical visionary in an organization. I've got good ideas. I'm good at like building strategy and like seeing how the pieces are going to fit together and processes. But once I've put together that strategy and process, I need that integrator to actually make sure that it happens. And I think at the beginning, I'd spend a week putting something together, and then I'd have a conversation with the staff members that are supposed to implement it, explain my whole vision, what I want them to do. And then 6 months later, I'd be like, hey guys, we're still doing this. And they'd be like, oh no, we stopped doing that because it wasn't working because of this. And I never followed up because I was on to building the next processes and systems. So I think putting in that integrator and those department heads so that I could build it, give it to somebody, and then make sure that it actually consistently is happening. So.
No, absolutely. I think Traction worked wonders for us as well. But just curious, did you like read the book and then implement it yourself, or did you have somebody like implement it for you?
I'm part of another organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And as part of that 1 year, as part of our training, we did a group implementation. So it was not a full implementation by any means,
Mhm.
but we had an official EOS facilitator and we did 4 sessions with them that were a few hours each. And they gave us homework and then we came back in small groups. So I was with maybe 6 other business owners. And that's really the extent of it. That was enough for us to take the worksheets and run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We never got like officially implemented.
I understand. Now, the reason I said this is, in fact, for our viewers, we can put in the link for Traction and the details. But I think Traction is definitely a very good system for an organization to be organized and scale properly. We tried doing it ourselves earlier, and then we ended up creating our own version of Traction. And we would just spend hours and meetings, and we would ultimately just change the whole concept. And then the second time we actually asked a friend, they have Traction implemented. Like, we asked him to be the facilitator and do it
Yep.
for us, but it definitely has been very amazing for us. Talking about like good initiatives, what has I'm sure there have been many. I'm sure. Like, top of your mind, like one of the most difficult decisions you had to make, and then it ultimately led to a long-term benefit.
All of the most difficult decisions that I've had to make throughout business have related to people. And it's they're typically letting somebody go that I like that's just not the right fit, or having a difficult conversation with somebody. I don't know that I can really boil this down to one, but I know that there've been a couple of instances where I've had to fire somebody that was a friend, either a friend before I hired them or became friends working for me. And I put it off too long. I let it probably 3 months too long, where I just knew that it wasn't going to work, but I just wanted to keep giving them chances and I wanted them to succeed. And in every case, it was such a relief once I actually did it. And then looking back, I'm like, why did I not do that sooner? So I can't boil it down to a specific one, but definitely having the difficult conversations with people have been the hardest things that I've had to deal with.
Selling SEO is an art. How do you communicate the value proposition to prospect clients?
Yeah, it's hard. So we generate most of our business through SEO or Google Ads for SEO keywords. So most of the people coming in know that they want SEO when they come in. We're not trying to explain the value of SEO to them. They get that SEO is valuable. So that's helpful. At the beginning, like I said, we did a lot of risk reversals. If I didn't have tons of case studies and client testimonials and proof that we can do what we say, I would go back to risk reversals because it's the easiest way to sell. And it not only helps the buyer feel comfortable buying, but it also shows extreme confidence, right? Like where that I can do, that I'm confident that I can do what I say I can do. And that was near the beginning. And now it's just like, we'll try to find similar clients to the prospect that we're talking to and share those results on the time lapse. Because just saying, hey, this is another client that we work with and they rank #1 for this keyword and get X amount of traffic, they don't really have anything to compare that to. They're like, okay, that sounds great. I'd like that. But where were they when they started? Are they really like me? And if I can find someone that was like them when they started and say, hey, look at this. We started with this guy 4 years ago. He was exactly like you. He had the same baseline that we were working from. And this is where we got after a year. And it was good results and he was happy. But really, look where we got after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I like setting that expectation because it's scary to tell someone just on a first time call, like, how long is it going to take? I feel like this is a thing in the industry. Like we all want to be like, yeah, we can do it in 6 months, right? And it's some campaigns just aren't 6-month campaigns, right? Sometimes if you've got competitors that have been spending on SEO for 10 years and doing a good job of it, we're probably not going to beat them in 6 months with your brand new website.
Right.
But just telling people, hey, it's going to take 18 to 24 months, that's a turnoff and they're going to walk away. But if I can show them through an illustration of here's here's what we did. Look, within the first 6 months, we were seeing improvement, but really where things took off for them was at like the 18-month mark. And I think people being able to say, okay, I'm going to follow that same path has been really helpful.
The onboarding process is critical because that's the entry point and the start of client experience with an agency. How do you approach setting client expectations during the initial stages, and how does the initial investment phase impact the overall client agency relationships?
Yeah. To answer the second question, immensely. Most clients that we've lost because of some miscommunication or misalignment of expectations. And so we have, like, in the office, our mantra that we live by is do what we say we are going to do.
Right.
Um, and that applies to obviously showing up to work on time and like the things internally,
Yeah.
but it really applies to like it's those little things. And there's actually there's a story in E-Myth Revisited where the guy basically talks about, he goes into a barber shop and he has a good experience and they offer him a coffee and they sit him down, they cut his hair, they wash his hair. He comes back and he has a different experience. They don't offer him a coffee till afterward. They wash his hair before. It's a different process than what he was expecting. It was still a good experience, but it was different. He comes in a third time and he has a different experience again, and he never comes back. And it's not any one of the experiences was okay, but it's the reason that if I get breakfast from McDonald's, I like the sausage and egg McMuffin because it comes out the same way every single time.
Yes.
And like 1 in 10, they'll put the egg and the sausage in the wrong place. And I'm like, that's not right. So back to the onboarding, like those little expectations. So like we try to set in the sales process, here's what the next steps are going to be. We're going to get on a kickoff call on your first or second day. We're going to introduce you to the entire team. So you're going to meet, not the entire team, sorry, but the leadership team that's going to be managing the campaign. You're going to meet your account manager, the technical person. We're going to have some questions for you. We just want to make sure that we do a smooth handoff, that we give that we're targeting the right stuff. And then you're probably not going to hear a lot from us for the next week or two, which is normal because we're working on setting everything up and making sure that we're targeting the right stuff. And then at about 2 weeks, we're going to have a realignment call where we're going to get back on and we're going to walk through what we've done in those 2 weeks, how to read the reports, how to use the tools that we set up for you, any further recommendations that we found. And then after that, we're going to meet with you once a month for the first 3 months. We're going to have a meeting, just review your progress. And after that, we're going to move to quarterly meetings. We'll do monthly reports, but we don't need to meet every month because stuff just doesn't happen that quickly. And then the key part of this, that's our process. I like the process, but the process itself is useless if we don't deliver on that exactly. So if I say we're going to meet within the first day or two, if we don't get that meeting scheduled till day 3, we've already dropped the ball for that client, right? It doesn't matter if we were already working in the background, like what the reason was, somebody got sick. If I tell them 1 or 2 days, it has to be 1 or 2 days. So it's just like ironing out that process and then making sure that what we tell them happens exactly how we told them it was going to happen. And when we do, that instills a ton of confidence. Like it has nothing to do with how good we are at SEO. It's that they believe that if the process that we communicate for onboarding is as consistent as if they experience it as consistently as we outlined it, then their assumption is that our processes for getting them the rankings are going to be delivered as consistently as what we promised. So.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very important. A lot of people get it wrong where they try to, like you said, do what you say you will do, right? You try to say things and overcommit things that even you're not confident will happen in that timeline. So I think that's very important. You guys have a very like a very robust onboarding procedure. Now, one problem which I have seen a lot of agency owners, discuss is like profitability per client. Like it's investing less time per client is as dangerous as investing too much time. Is there a process that you follow to maintain, like to track profitability per client and just to ensure that every client is getting what they deserve, but at the same time, you are like tracking your own profits per client?
Yeah. So we use a super advanced tool for this called Google Sheets. And so basically we have, no, it is somewhat advanced because we're pulling our pricing data into a sheet, but it's not that complicated. So really there's not that many actual things that we do. Like the strategy is very important, but like actual things, we build links, we do press releases, we build citations, we do on-pager technical work, we write content. Like we do the same things in the right quantities. And we have pricing for each of those things. And the prices might be in hours or in number of words or whatever that is. But we put it into the calculator. And so every month at our end of month meeting, we sit down with the account manager and the technical lead for the project, and we review what happened in the last month, what the client objectives are. That's where we exchange information. And then we lay out what the plan is for the next month, and we fill in that calculator with what we want. And it tells us, if it tells us that we're over budget, then we say, okay, maybe we could push 500 words of content to the next month. Or if we're under, then we say, okay, let's increase that. And then we monitor that like in our database software, or we also use for project management. So like halfway through the month, we'll have, anytime throughout the month, we have a live report that shows how many of each of these things have gone into a campaign. And then there's a difference column. So it'll show us how close we are. So if we're halfway into the month and one of the clients hasn't gotten any of the deliverables yet, they're going to show up with a high number in that difference column. And the account manager or operations manager will notice that and say, hey guys, make sure we have a plan for getting this done. So that's really, and then like I mentioned, the insurance pool model will have like some of our clients in that end of month meeting get color coded as red. And those are the clients that feel like the results aren't meeting the expectations that we set out. And so the red clients, we were allowed to go over budget on within an acceptable threshold.
When should an agency outsource, and what parts should be outsourced?
It's interesting. I've been through so many sides of this. So when I started, it was just, I was doing what I think a lot of people do when they start. It was me doing all the strategy. I started hiring remote employees in the Philippines. And then I realized that I grew too fast. I had a month where we brought on, we basically doubled the size of our agency, and I just didn't have the people that I panicked, and I said, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I fired everyone, and I outsourced the whole thing, like not outsourced, but white labeled, basically worked with another agency, said, you're going to provide services for me. I'll do sales and client management. I had a great summer that summer, actually, because I didn't work very hard and I made a bunch of money. But I think coming from the agency side, I was used to this model where I'd over deliver for clients that were underperforming. And this agency that I was white labeling to didn't have the same mentality. They wanted to make money on all the clients, which makes sense. So I felt uncomfortable that I had clients that weren't getting as good results as I wanted them to, and I couldn't directly control it. So I went back, ended up firing that agency, but now I had a bunch of clients and no fulfillment team or process for fulfilling it. So I hired an operations manager, and that wasn't her title. She was an assistant, basically. But she turned into an operations manager. And that was the best hire that I ever made. And I got some great advice because I was doing 80% of the work really well. All of the and we started using vendors again. But instead of outsourcing the whole thing, I'd buy links from one person, content from somebody else. I had vendor relationships. And I wanted to give her the things that I didn't know how to do. I thought, I'm good at all this stuff. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and you do the stuff that I don't know how to do. And I got some very good advice that was, no, Jacob, that's the wrong approach. It was actually Michael Milas gave me this advice. He said, you need to give her all of the things that you're really good at doing.
Yes.
Because it's easy for you to train her on them. You have processes, and then you got to go figure out the things that you don't know how to do.
Yeah.
So I gave her, so basically she started outsourcing she started doing what I did, which was managing the campaigns and making sure that we bought all of the right things from the right vendors at the right times. And then I started doing more in-depth strategy. And the more important thing that I did is that I had time to go around and replace the vendors with internal people. So I hired writers. I did interviews. I found good writers, hired writers, stopped buying content. Her job stayed the same. She was still ordering content. She just ordered it from our internal team. And it's funny because to this day, like we outsource very little. We outsource citations and that's about it. And we still in the office refer to getting content as ordering content. And it's been this big problem that like an account manager will say it on a client call because we say it in the office and they'll be like, we ordered the content. And they're like, oh, are you outsourcing this? And we're like, no, we ordered it from our writer that sits beside me. But it's that language never left. Okay, so to really answer the question, I'd say like outsourcing is almost imperative when you're starting because there's no way that I could have built. There's so much in SEO, right? Like it's not like
Yeah.
we do. Like we have like a lawn care business. Like you hire people that can cut lawns, and it's great. But like in SEO, you need developers, writers, outreach people. So there's no way that you can build an SEO agency without outsourcing at the beginning. As you get more established, what I choose to outsource is things that we can't do internally as efficiently. So for it to meet outsourcing criteria, someone else has to be able to provide a higher quality output at a better price. And that's why, so we did citations internally. They were costing us $9 a citation. I found a vendor, I can get citations for $2 a citation and the quality is the same. But I guess the other criteria is that they had to be somewhat flexible because I need everything in my management system. So they had to be flexible enough to work with us. And I know you get into that. You do a lot of white label and vendor. You are the vendor, right? For a lot of agencies. And we had that conversation about how you actually get integrated into their systems. And I think that's such a smart play because the last thing an agency wants to do is go have two management systems, one for the vendor and internal, right?
Thank you so much for explaining that so well, because I'm sure a lot of agencies, when they're scaling, they have this problem. Should we outsource? Should we not outsource? And, what to outsource. So thank you so much for that. SEO landscape has evolved so much. Like you said, like you were there in the PBN days, and like we have seen that, we have seen everything crash, and so much has changed since then. And now the AI thing happening. Like sitting at the end of 2023 as an SEO agency owner, what are the key shifts or things that SEO agencies should prepare themselves for?
Good question. Honestly, I think SEO is probably more straightforward today than it ever has been. I'm not saying black hat doesn't work. I know I have some friends that do very successful black hat SEO, but there's less and less, and it seems to get picked up quicker and quicker. And our strategies really haven't changed that much over the years. Like we build out topically relevant content silos that satisfy search queries, do intelligent internal linking, get mentions and links on authoritative and relevant sites. And none of that's really changed. Even from the PBN days, we were doing the same thing. We were just faking it. Really, the question is what happens from my perspective. I don't think, if I had to make predictions around AI, it's that Google has to devalue high quality content. It's been such a pillar for so long, and it's become easy to create en masse. So they have to move to engagement signals, which they've been trying to do already for a long time. And how are we going to get good engagement is by writing high quality content that relates to the search query. So I don't think that the content itself, just building out, what are people calling it now? Programmatic SEO, or building out thousands or millions of pages of content. I don't know that's going to last. But as far as like, we specialize in local SEO, and like for a local client, having their service pages with the right content on them and supporting content that answers user queries. And I don't think that I don't think people are going to go to AI for local search as much as they will for other things. It's good at answering questions, but if you're looking for a dentist, you probably still want a directory experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about like link building has evolved so much. I love doing links, and like I've seen link building change and like always trying new strategies. But from your experience, what worked in 2023 and what do you see working in 2024?
Yeah. On the local side, like I think our from a cost to value perspective, citations are some of the best links that we build. And not just for local rankings, but not just for maps rankings, but for organic as well. Because basically, like somebody said a while back, I forget who it was. They said good on page, sorry, good off page is good on page, off page. And if you can have a link in a well optimized article that is relevant, it's helpful. And a citation is exactly that, because 9 times out of 10, you get the location, you get the address, and sometimes the category, the business category,
Yeah.
in the H1 and the title tag of this page that has a link to the site. Anyway, we've had like massive success, like especially like even aggregating that. Like if we have 10 locations across Canada and we build 100 citations for each location, no, we do still do outreach, guest posting, link insertions. We do press releases, but they're expensive and sometimes they move the needle and sometimes they don't. And with 100% consistency, building 100 citations for a local client always moves the needles.
Right. Jacob, favorite client story?
You know what? I was thinking about a negative one, but I got to give you a positive one.
Yeah, sure.
So
Why end 2023 on a negative client story? Yeah.
exactly. So I met one of my first clients actually at a BNI meeting years ago. He's an electrician and he was a small business. It was him and a partner and 2 apprentices. And I got started doing their SEO and got really good results. They started growing and I think they have 70 electricians today. Not all from SEO. Some of that's like built commercial and industrial stuff, but we helped for sure. And so we became good friends. I ended up going to his wedding. 2016, he tells me that he wants to start a solar company. I said, oh, cool. I'm really interested in solar. That's a space that I'm passionate about. So I said, why don't, there's not huge demand for solar here. We live in a province in Canada where we have super inexpensive hydroelectric power, not a huge sell for replacing clean energy with other clean energy. But so I said, let's partner up on this. I'll build the website, we'll rank it. And then as the industry evolves, we'll get more business. Business will grow. Set up the partnership, started the business. Like 2 weeks later, some rebates and incentives came out and business ended up blowing up. And so that business actually is about just over double the size by revenue of my first rank, the SEO agency now. And that was just a really cool, like clients, like, and just, it didn't happen just because he was a client. It happened because of building a relationship. And I always remember that. It's not that I'm just just farming opportunities, but it's like
Building those relationships.
I try to be friends with my clients.
Well, makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that always works. And you can't fake it. It has to come like within your nature. It has to be who you are. I think relationships always help long term. Jacob, I know we are less on time. I also have to play a rapid fire round with you. But before that, what advice would you give to agency owners that are currently in the growth phase?
Yeah, I guess it would depend on size. It's a people game. I think that was something that I didn't realize. I was in grade 10 when I decided to make money online. I wanted to not talk to people, just work behind a computer. And every industry is a people industry, including SEO. And at the beginning, it was developing those people skills because I was the salesperson. I was out farming business and getting clients. And then it turned into making good hires, managing people, keeping employee retention, keeping people happy. And now we have one more layer where I have managers and I'm helping coach them on how to manage people, which is crazy because I never even thought that I'd be doing that. So I think really like it's not directly related to bringing in new sales for scaling, but to scale effectively, the better your people skills are. Read books. Like it didn't come naturally for me. How to Win Friends and Influence People is like an absolutely amazing book on that topic. And there's many others. That would be my number one advice is sharpen those people skills.
Thank you for that, man. In the end, before I let you go, I play a quick rapid fire round of 3 to 5 questions. Are you ready?
Okay, ready.
How long does it take you to get ready?
Like in the morning?
Yeah.
35 minutes from out of bed to in the car.
That's an exact calculation. And you actually time it?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Last Google search?
Orthopedic surgeon, New York.
If a movie was made on you, what genre would it be?
Space Western.
Thank you so much, man. It was so fun talking to you. I wish you all the best. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.